Welcome to TechRect. I'm your host, Alicia Kellstrom, with a background in B2B tech software and sales. I've spent the last few months exploring new opportunities, and along the way, I've had the privilege of meeting incredible people with fascinating experiences that I can't wait to share with you. Whether you're looking to break into tech, navigate tech tooling, or even coping with the hardship of layoffs, these stories will inspire, inform, and entertain you. Let's jump right in. Welcome back to TechRect. Today we have Kristine Sanabria. Kristine and I met via Zoya Segelbecker's Uncapped community, and when we did our pre-call, I was like going off the rails. I was so excited. I cannot wait for you guys to meet Kristine. Hi, how are you?
Hello, Aisha. How are you? It is awesome to be here. Excited to continue our conversation and meeting with you on Uncap. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming on the show. I was really jazzed by our call, so I'm so excited to share your story and, more importantly, your advice for all of the folks who are out there in layoff land or looking for a new job or looking to pivot into tech, because you've done it all. You're the pro. And I can't wait for you to share your story. So why don't we start off with just like high-level overview of your professional background. Within
Sure.
there, you can kind of intersperse your 30-second elevator pitch, but tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Okay, awesome. So just to zoom out, my background, I start off in the hospitality in the events arena. So as a client relationship manager throughout my tenure there, I focus on a very specific niche. During that time in events and production, I worked with fashion and luxury brands. I really wanted to exercise my consultative approach in working with customers. So I wanted to understand a couple of different things, what my customers were doing when it came to the events arena. So some were doing product launches, some were capturing their sales and doing animations or press or television. So I wanted to really understand where my services can be of service to some of these brands. And I worked with some really awesome brands like Saks Fifth Avenue, LVMH, Kering, Audemars Piguet, Rolex, just to mention a few. My
Wow.
retention, thank you. Yeah, and my
Congrats. Yeah.
retention rate with customers, because of my approach, I had 70% of my customers were roughly about referrals. So I had a revenue retention rate with working with customers from as little as 5 years to as long as 12 years. So it was a really awesome time. And then like everything in a pandemic, things changed. I had to pivot, which was my chapter 2 in my career. I knew that I wanted to transition in tech, but I also wanted to be purposeful. I mean, I wanted to be a part of the conversation in what was happening with lockdown. I wanted to understand what was happening. How do I use my consultative approach and bring people back with confidence? And that's where I was able to transition into sustainability
Hmm.
and focus on the health of buildings and healthy indoor spaces. So it was in prop tech, which is what we like to call it. And so with building certifications, and that was really awesome. Workplace wellness solutions for Fortune 500 companies. And I would say like the biggest highlight when I was working in sales as a director and senior director of business development, I acquired Google as a client. And so that was a really awesome achievement. And I'm excited to be here and to share with all of your guests and listeners how we can not only pivot, but I want to double click and talk to all the listeners about the what and the do and the upskilling. I think that's a very important conversation piece. So excited to be here and to talk to you more, Alicia. Thanks.
That's incredible. Okay, so prop tech, is that property tech?
Yeah, and within property tech and management. So with sustainability, there's different types of building certification. So the building certification that my former company was the founder of was WELL certification. So that focused on the health of buildings and healthy indoor spaces. So it was a
Wow.
really awesome time to be a part of the lockdown and being able to have that consultative approach with customers and really instilling confidence in the decisions that they were making.
Just out of curiosity, because this is not something that will be the bulk of our conversation, but how long had that company been in operations? Was this something that had been a consideration of the Fortune 500 prior to the pandemic, or was it out
Yeah.
of the pandemic?
Good question. Yeah, no, Delos has been around since 2009. So they were the pioneers and the founders of Well, certification, which is aligned with their subsidiary company, the International Well Building Institute. So they were a nice to have and within the sustainability sector. And then when the pandemic happened, well, really took over and it skyrocketed from there, from being a nice to have to being a must have. And
Wow.
actually, Well was listed during the Biden administration as one of the certifying bodies that was a recommended practice to open up their buildings safe.
Oh, interesting.
So that was a really huge landmark for Delos, for the International Well Building Institute, and covering over 4.5 billion square feet and in 125 countries. So it was a very exciting time to really flex the consultative approach, which was really up my alley and what I wanted to do in transitioning into the tech field.
Incredible. So amazing.
Yeah.
I love what you kind of teased in your intro about the what and the do of pivoting and upskilling. So let's get into it. I want to hear your story. I want to know how you went from a client relationship manager within events and hospitality to tech. And also, where did you learn the term revenue retention rate? Because I I don't know. I talk with folks all the time who are trying to pivot into like a sales role. And the hardest part for them is getting the lingo, getting the standard operating procedures down. So give us the scoop. How'd you get there?
Sure. Yeah, when we're talking about the what and we're talking about the do, right? I knew that I wanted to transition into tech, but I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be in business development. So when I talk about the what, to our listeners out there, what kind of sales do you want to be doing, right? Do you want to be doing BDR? Do you want to be in account management? Do you want to be an account executive? Maybe it's RevOps on the back end. Maybe it's sales engineering. Maybe it's sales operations. Maybe you want to be a solutions architect and you want to be in pre-sales. Maybe you want to be in inside sales, or you want to do customer success, or you want to do customer experience. So, right? So
Hold on
think
a
about
second. What book did you read? No, first of all, because not everybody knows what everything stands for, let's just run through that just really quickly. BDR is kind of the entry level business development representative. They are responsible for all that outbound prospecting, bringing leads to the table, right?
right.
Account executives are the full cycle sales reps that go from lead to close, right?
Mhm. Right.
We'll skip over RevOps for a second. Account management is the post-close relationship manager, essentially.
Right.
And then why don't you like sales engineering and solutions engineering, kind of the same thing. They're kind of help with the integration of the technology to your
Yes.
instance, right?
Right.
RevOps is kind of the data in the back end, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then customer success is in customer experience. That's more on the post sale. So there, after the sales has already closed and the deals get moved over to them. So I just like to zoom out about that detail because I think we all talk about tech, but what do we want to exactly get into when it comes to tech? And then do you know what you want to do in tech? Like, do you know the difference between xanthic and yellow? Do you know the difference between crimson and red? I think there's something to be said about that when we're thinking about the measuring of understanding the difference of what we want to do, because tech is so broad. However, there's so many different types of technologies, as we know. And if you really don't understand what type of role you want to do you understand the different types of technology that's out there for you? That's really the benefit because it's about selling or post sale. It can be very challenging and create a lot of friction for you as the listeners out there, right? So it'll be friction for you. And you want the least barrier of entry, transitioning into sales, transitioning into tech, transitioning into any type of field. And Another do, like, do you know the difference between attitudinal technology and do you know the difference between behavioral technology? So attitudinal, these are products or services that customers love. So this would be your Microsoft, this would be your Apple, your Dell. These are what customers have a passion for, what they own, from a smartphone to an iPhone. And this is very important for you to know about yourself. Maybe you like behavioral. Behavioral are tech stacks that can be, they are the operational fabric that belongs in a company. So a fleet management company needs a fleet management technology to track their truckers and their drivers and the planes for costs of goods. So really, get granular. So those are your xanthics, your crimsons. Those are your very specific details of the do's to really understand the what and to bridge that together. I know I said a lot. I said it really fast. It's great that it's a podcast. You can always hit rewind.
Also, where's your TED Talk? Like, what is this? This is like really very helpful to me, and I've been in the industry for a while. So, where did you learn this? How did you